breaking laws, I think we're okay.
Well, don't break any laws. Welcome to the July 16th meeting of the Development Authority. Glad to see you all back after didn't have a meeting. Can I have approval of the minutes of May 23rd?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Okay,
and
I
who
would
was-
open.
Who was the second? Joe?
I think we have some people who would like to speak this morning. Mr. Franz, I think you have some good news.
Oh, thank you. Up there, here?
Yeah, whatever.
Probably be where the microphone is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And can I make a quick comment? So,
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here. I'm here with LifeNet this morning, and I mentioned to Dot coming in that we had some breaking news developed last week that's very economic development related. So she asked if I'd say a few words about it. As you know, I chair two organizations that are closely allied with this one. One is the Go Virginia Regional Council, and we've seen increased interest in collaboration, innovation, and productivity in that realm. And then the other was called until last week the RVA Hampton Roads Collaborative. We changed the name and the focus last week at the insistence of the guys and ladies from Richmond to the RVA Hampton Roads Mega Region Collaborative. And the plan of that group, which is a very broad-based group of CEOs from Richmond to the oceanfront, is to combine statistics and, in the appropriate cases, market the two regions together as one. We're coming up with a name as one of the next projects in order to win more opportunities in each region than we're seeing. We've found that we're too small, each of us, on a global basis, that when you're looking for an opportunity and sitting in Paris or Shanghai or Singapore, neither one of us are winning any of those opportunities, but together with 3 million people, a highly diverse economy, 22 universities, we think that whichever one of our economic development organizations in the greater region is giving it a shot, when they say, for example, we are Virginia Beach, part of the RVA Hampton Roads mega region, you're going to open more doors than you're opening today. So our next steps, in addition to the name, will be to seek partnerships with organizations like yourselves. One of the things we've done is set up 13 committees, and you'll know the chairs of all of them, that are looking to strengthen us in various sectors, one of which is science and technology. We set up a science and technology committee, and for the first time ever, we have VCU, William & Mary, and ODU together as a partnership, as the university background partnered with the business background led by Ronnie Thomas, and the plan is to create more going on in that science and technology corridor. An affiliated group is the entrepreneurial group, and that's the same group of 3 universities in the business communities, and people like 757 Angels, Monique Adams, for example, is very involved. And so the idea basically is to create the perception that together the two regions are cooler and are going to attract more interest from the millennials and people from around the world. So that's it in a nutshell. There's a long presentation, but we're going to, in the months to come, formally seek partnerships with Virginia Beach Economic Development Authority, HREDA, Greater Richmond Partnership, et cetera. And in a very non-threatening way, we are simply offering to be one tool in your toolbox.
Thank you so much, Tom. And the only thing we ask of you is to please get us a new airport started next year.
That's on the list.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Tom? Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak?
Can I make one quick announcement?
Well, yeah, sure.
This is a quick advance on my report today, and I'll apologize for this in advance. You may hear us ask you a couple of times to verify motions and seconds, and it's simply because this is the first meeting of our new administrative technician who's taken minutes for this organization for the first time and is learning faces and is putting faces with the names that she's been reading for the last few weeks. So just if as we work through that, if we're running a little slower today, apologize in advance for that.
Well, she does a great job, and I
Sure does.
appreciate all the new people we have. Thank you. Okay. Request for approval of a solution authorizing an interest-free loan of, I'm gonna do the financial after he comes.
Sure, of course.
Okay. Well,
So-
we're just going differently today because our attorney's not here and
That's right. He's
yet.
he's stuck on 264, but he'll be walking in the door anytime now.
So-
And he is actually making the presentation on 4. So,
Well,
Ron, can we maybe jump to Ron's investment partnerships?
That's whatever you want.
Is that okay with you, Ron?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you all. It seems like it's really important, though, to have our attorney, although we have other attorneys.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the authority. This is part one of two overviews that we'd like to give you, particularly because there are new members of the authority, and we also think it's good to refresh on this information. This is a body of work that we did for council in the fall of 2018. It was a year's worth of work when Patty Phillips, our former finance director, was still here. And basically it was to catalog what we would loosely call public-private partnerships, but also investment partnerships as the council's authority calls it. So little just thumbnail sketch, just kind of a gut check here about public-private partnerships. Typically they're an agreement to leverage large-scale development and generate a public benefit or increase tax revenues. They're used across the country to spur private investment. Typically, it's because a project otherwise would not happen organically on its own from just the private sector or the public. And here in Virginia Beach, it's guided by the City Council's guidelines for evaluation of investment partnerships for economic development when we consider and analyze a project. So a couple key threshold questions: is the project desirable, and is the project financially feasible? So if it's desirable, then it would be supportive of the council's vision, the comprehensive plan, and other relevant plans, such as perhaps an area plan, like the Resort Strategic Action Plan, for example. Generates synergy and attracts additional private sector investment. And then is it financially feasible? And this, we'll do a little more on this in our due diligence section here, but one of the key elements is that it is a fair and reasonable return for both the private sector and the public, and that it's a quality level, but for the public sector investment otherwise would not happen. So there are different processes or methodologies for procurement that we typically can use, and they might be an RFQ, which was used 2 years ago when we did the Dome site redevelopment. It might be an RFP. We have been doing that typically for Development Authority owned properties. It could be PPEA. PPEA is an authority given by the Virginia Code, Public-Private Educational and Facilities Act. It allows you to use a design build plus operation procurement all combined in one to deliver a public facility that might not otherwise be produced, such as the sports center that you now see being built on 19th Street. It also, you can use any of these for a reaction to an unsolicited proposal from a developer. Typically the process then is we will brief City Council or Development Authority if it's coming straight to Development Authority in a closed executive session. Typically liaisons are established. In the case of the Dome site, for example, right now, Councilmember Jones and Councilmember Tower are our liaisons. We do our due diligence. We have requirements for public engagement. Sometimes it's a requirement for our public hearing, depending on the type of action that the council or development authority has taken. But we always want robust public engagement that is not otherwise required to make sure that we're getting public input. And then ultimately, what you're looking for is a development agreement by City Council or also Development Authority approval. So this is essentially a little bit of repeat of some of that, but these are the key elements of what we would call an investment partnership. Is it following council goals and policy? You're doing public engagement, robust due diligence, understanding your legal requirements, and ultimately trying to get to a development agreement. So public participation is different, and what I mean by public participation is public investment, the use of public monies in a project. And so it might be typically for infrastructure or parking and amenities. That's the most common. That's what we've done predominantly here in Town Center, for example. The EDIP, Economic Development Investment Program, is what you administer with the revenues that come from our cigarette taxes. That's going to be part 2 next month that Taylor will walk you through a little more robust overview to make sure we're doing a gut check on those policies. It could be a performance-based incentive, but for revenues that are generated. If it wasn't for the project, the revenues otherwise wouldn't be generated, and can they be returned in the form of a performance grant? Typically, they're with admissions or real estate taxes. It might be sales, or also some of the projects have used the tourism development financing program from the state, which is used for a gap financing component. You might establish a special service district. We have one here in Town Center for a higher standard of the infrastructure. That is the maintenance, the upkeep, and even programming. That's an additional 45 cents in this district. And then it may be lease of city land or sale. So the due diligence varies by projects, but feasibility analysis, the Dome, for example, you may recall we did a series of studies throughout 2018. They concluded last summer. We were able to deliver economic impact analysis of the overall project, a retail feasibility analysis, a parking feasibility analysis, and so that is common. We also do an analysis of the pro forma of the proposed project, and these are proprietary reviews that we do, and that's the understanding that we have with the prospective partner. And then we also analyze on a net present value basis the city's investment and what that impact is. And so is the city gaining a return, and or is it even a break even over, for example, a 20-year period, depending on what the investment is. We look at the direct and indirect physical impacts. We may need outside professional assistance, and we're doing that, for example, with the Dome, with some key technical professionals that we need based on the recommendations for that. And then we look for any risk that might be out there. So when we went through our exercise to basically catalog what had been done here at the city, we really came up with what we looked at about 20 projects, but really based on the policy, the level of investment, the technical aspects of the deal, there were about 13 projects we identified. And then we started to sort them. Well, what type of projects were they? And so I'm not going to go through these, but collectively there were 6 projects that we would characterize as recreation and entertainment projects. And you'll see here that some of the key measures that we use is what's the public and what's the private investment and what are the ratio. So a little less than $1 for dollar has helped us have the Sportsplex, the Sandler Center, 2 golf courses, the Virginia Beach Fieldhouse, and the Virginia Beach Amphitheater. The second group is what we would probably, and I will do a quick run through of these individual projects, which we characterize as commercial and economic development that may be more familiar for the Development Authority's participation. There were 7 projects. As a group, the overall ratio is 5.2 to 1. So here they are. I'm going to quickly run through some of these highlights. So Lynnhaven Mall expansion was a very unique one. They were looking for a parking garage and to really adjust some of their key tenants and a facelift. And this was used predominantly for upgrade of a BMTP, parking and transit services and public roads, and there was a TIF established. And interestingly, though, it didn't have any capital outlay from the city. The TIF just, they needed the authority of the city in order to establish this to achieve this. And the public to private ratio was 8.7 to 1. And that's been considered a successful project in how that was established. Town Center, several phases of Town Center. The key takeaway is that collectively it's a 4.5 to 1 investment over almost $490 million of private sector investment. The key here was the establishment of a TIF. That incremental additional real estate tax enables us to pay our debt for the garages, and that's our key component here. We pay for the infrastructure and we pay for the garages, and the developer typically, for example, in this building, pays for the commercial construction of the condominium unit that's in the airspace. Our cost recovery, this is a key measure that we found that was in the body of work, is 13 years. That was in 2014 based on the previous phases. Of course, we just had Block 9, and so we will do some updating to this as we continue to incrementally grow this district. 31st Street, that was a key one that was instrumental in really leveraging private sector investment in more than just this. The 31st Street, Laskin Gateway, you continue to see private investment ripple throughout that district. It was a key strategy of the Resort Strategic Action Plan. Here, the primary investment was the public investment of $31 million. We own the garages, the bridge, we own the retail space that's in the garages, and overall has been considered a successful project, and we did recover our initial investment in 10 years there. Operation Smile, primary public and participation here with some site improvements and the city-owned land that is out there at the Lansdowne Commons area. Public-to-private ratio there, 6.68 to 1. 25th Street and IFLY, this actually received a ULI award for public-private partnerships, but this was multifamily plus a tourist amenity recreational benefit, or I think we're calling it experiential retail, but the IFLY, the component was key, but our predominantly here, it was landscaping and the parking garage that was our participation. We did use a performance-based admissions tax, but for incentive grant in that scenario. The Cavalier, arguably the largest tourism development project in the history of the city, $274 million investment for the historic Cavalier, the Marriott, and the future Embassy Suites. Then on top of that, the residential Cavalier Estates of $120 million. Our participation there was in some preservation of the green open space, and then also for the use of the Tourism Development Financing Program for the gap identified in their financing package. And there were two of those, one for the Cavalier and then the second set for the Marriott and the Embassy Suites. And the last one, the most recent, was City View 2, right around the corner here on Constitution and Bonnie Road. And this was predominantly for parking. And so they're going to use the tax incremental financing district for that. And then also there was a benefit for easements for the continued construction of the Thalia Creek Greenway trails. So again, collectively, we had identified 13 projects. What this does include is the sports center, since that's under construction, but eventually we will add the sports center, and that would be one of those recreational entertainment. We did use the PPEA methodology for that. It was a very rapid concept to construction process, and we did, the partnership there is with our operator that's actually investing in some of the furniture, fixture, and equipment of the facility. And then we are still negotiating on the dome and have great hopes that we will come to a conclusion of a development agreement this fall on that. Other opportunities in the future, again, the dome site, the Bonnie Road with Olympia Development. You have consideration this morning for an EDIP on your agenda. Our innovation park out at Princess Anne, any of the opportunity zones, and many of those where we have city-owned properties, a potential convention center hotel in the future, and maybe a pier replacement. So that's that overview. Again, that's part one. And part two, the EDIP is a very tangible way for helping small business, and it's purposeful in the amount of money we put in that on an annual basis that is quite unique from these negotiated deals that we have. And so I'm happy to answer any questions, and then again, we'll pick this back up as far as what do we do when we have investment partnerships as a city and your participation as a development authority.
Thank you. Any questions? Yesterday, I was having lunch and I got a call from a publisher of a magazine talking about our city. And he's gonna come back in November, but he had been down looking at the Cavalier for maybe writing an article. And I told him we'll have lots of new, probably wonderful things. And it's exciting how well our city's doing. Okay, before we go to, you wanna start with the top of the meeting now?
So I would, and there are two things we need to note. One is, we did not receive disclosures in time from Princess Anne Little League, so
Oh,
we would
okay.
entertain a motion to defer that if you were willing,
Motion?
Madam Chair.
So moved.
Okay. But would you quickly explain, because I've had some questions, this is really not our money, isn't it, city?
Correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
This is money that was appropriated by city council for this
year.
purpose. Last year, city council, under the law, can't make this sort of grant. Development authorities can, so the
It's a
money.
pass-through,
It's a
sort of.
pass-through. The money was transferred
Yeah.
to you for that purpose.
The Little League project.
Yes, I'm sorry, I thought you.
That's right. And,
Okay. And then you wanna start it?
and then we can just jump back up to what was
Okay.
two, and I think is now,
When you want.
that's right.
Okay. Sean?
Sorry, they couldn't hear the calls.
I-
What?
The deferred calls.
So you've got, nothing.
Okay, well, Sean. We have our financial statement, there you are, hiding in the corner. Good place to be.
So I'll be going through
You're doing
the
good.
financial inflows and outflows for the authority. I'm actually going to be covering 2 months' worth of cash receipts and disbursements since we had last month's meeting being canceled. For the format of what's on your tablets, you should see the 2 columns. In this case, we're covering May and June, first being the operating account. As we go through the PowerPoint slides, I'll work on just the month of May first, then June for operating, and then I'll proceed to the the incentive program. So for your first page here, we're going through the operating account, beginning the month of May. In this case, over $4.7 million of operating funding on hand. For our cash receipts, we had our collections from the golf course for 2 months' worth of operations as well as capital maintenance rent. Below that, we had the yearly collection from the other golf course, which in this case is Heron Ridge, and we'll make a one-time payment for their rent. This will get remitted back to the city treasurer's office in accordance with agreements we have on that. And then finally, I touch upon the interest income we earned on the savings and the CDs. The authority maintains over $3,000 coming in, again, for the month of May. Proceeding down, just to cover May's disbursements, the significant items on there. You'll see engineering fees being paid in the month of May to Kimley Horn for the industrial parks under the authority's direct leadership, in this case being corporate landing, over $65,000 being expended for that month. If you skip to the bottom of your cash disbursements, we have a separate project line item for the stormwater improvements being done at corporate landing, and this is funding comes from the corporate park infrastructure budget. Not the operating account, but our infrastructure we have from any land sales that occur in the park. We use that funding to pay for this ongoing project here. And then finally below that, related to our charity golf tournament, which was in the month of May, we had the payments from the sponsorship proceeds we received, covered tee box signs, the prizes, the golf balls, and just the hosting of the actual tournament itself. With the remainder of that funding will be put on City Council's agenda at some future point to have the grants then awarded to the recipients from that. So we end the month of May, $4,719,753, and now I'll cover the month of June. Again, staying on the operating account, that cash amount carrying over. Receipts for June, we had industrial revenue bond fee split we collect from Norfolk's EDA. We had a bond issuance for Centera and an agreement we have with the sister city. They do a fee split for part of that funding with us. So we have that collection here occurring in June of over $18,000. for, again, collections from the golf course. Virginia Beach National pays their rent on a monthly basis. So we have the operations and rent collection, in this case for the month of April, over $19,000 coming in. And then again, monthly interest over $3,000 on the savings and CDs we have. For cash disbursements, again, work going on at Corporate Landing, over $20,000 under the on-call contract with Kimley Horn. Then we have the remittance back to the city treasurer's office for the rent we've been collecting. So in this case, it was the operations rent for Virginia Beach National, as well as that one-time yearly rent payment we get from Heron Ridge, over $50,000 being split, as you see, all going back to city treasurer's office from those two golf courses. And then from the corporate park infrastructure funding, had a large payment, over $600,000 for the partial work that's been done on the conduit being constructed out at Corporate Landing. So the first payment we had to the vendor we've had out there with the work being reviewed. Again, that money comes from corporate park money to pay for that. So after those disbursements, $4,704,913 as of the end of June, which is the end of our fiscal year of operating cash on hand. Does anyone have any questions on the inflows and outflows on the operating account for May or June?
Questions? Thank you.
If not, I'll go now to the incentive program, which I believe will be the second page on your financials, again covering the month of May 1st. Just cash receipts related to interest, nearly $500 coming in. For disbursements, we did have an award payout in the month of May, over $4,500 going to Prosper Insurance for the workforce expansion that they had occur. Below that, we've had payments to Kimley Horn for engineering work for various city initiatives. I have being parking at the amphitheater, Princess Anne Commons, Historic Kempsville, the hotel at TCC, and London Bridge Commerce Center, all city-led initiatives that we use Part D engineering fees to pay for. Below that, we had a few VIBE matching grant payments. These are full payments of those grant awards. One being to the Percy Lee Jones Family Trust and North End Bag Company. Again, they've both received the full payment of the VIBE matching grant award for the capital investment those companies made. And then below that, for ongoing work related to the biopark, Kimley Horn on contract for a lump sum payment for engineering fees. So we have ending cash, $2,646,153 at the end of May, which again we carry over the month of June. For June receipts, we had a reimbursement we filed for with the city. The city has a CIP they maintain for that biopark, and we expend the engineering fees from the authority here and then file for reimbursement from the city. So that's that inflow we have there, as well as our just over $450 in interest income we earned on the accounts. Disbursements, same projects with the city, in this case about $32,000 going out for city initiatives. We had our final payment related to the Town Center Block 9, streetscapes and bridge construction, with the punch list being completed. So that work has all been done, with the streetscapes reverting to the city, and the bridge becomes property of the Development Authority. And then finally below that, for bio-initiative funding expenditures, we had the final payment for the Innovation Challenge, completing all the, I believe it was phase 4 of that contract we had, over $106,000, as well as some trailing monthly fees related to the biopark engineering project. And then for the reconciliation, just showing the end of the fiscal year for June, basically, if you looked at the payment inflows and outflows we've had, we've adjusted our receivables and commitments for all of those items. And at the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, $1,676,117 as available EDIP funding. As of July 1st, the new fiscal year begins, and that's when another appropriation of incentive funding will be made available, which I'll talk about at next month's meeting. But as of right now, as of June 30th, that was our estimate of available EDIP funding.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we go on, would you like to introduce our new staff members?
Well,
Or you want to do it later?
so, Sean,
Oh, you didn't do the operating budget. You're going to
Yeah.
do that now. Okay.
No
Did
worries.
you do our budget then?
No worries. Yes, I believe also on your tablets as well, you should have a copy of the proposed operating budget. It was distributed at our May meeting for anyone's review. We don't have I have not received any changes or any items on it for any of the authority members. We're basically bringing the same items back to you for approval if there was any discussion we wanted to have from those items. For the benefit of the newer members, you'll see this is what we expend from our operating account for the review of a operating budget. We have sections for the corporate parks, which in this case is mainly corporate landing, for the on-call engineering fees and any work that will occur at that park. We have a separate section for what we call administrative, being there's an independent financial audit the authority goes through, as well as an annual report that makes up the bulk of the items you'll see under that section. We have various Development Authority hosted events. There's an annual reception at the end of the year, as well as a business appreciation event we have occur during the year. And then also if there's various grants that may come up. In this case, the only reoccurring grant we typically have is the Small Business Development Center. But those are all items that are part of your operating budget. If there was any questions or any proposed changes anyone had for it, we could discuss now for then the official vote for the authority.
Questions? Thank you.
So I think we need a motion on that one.
Yes,
Do we
we'll
need
need
a
a
motion? We do, okay. Can I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to do,
Sure.
okay.
Go, number 5?
Okay. Request for approval of resolution authorizing the first one-year extension of the engineering services from Kimberly Horn, August 19 through July 31st.
Madam Chair, may I be recognized?
Yes, I
So I would take Kimley Horn is our current annual services engineering services firm. We have a lot of work that is ongoing. This is the third annual renewal of I believe a potential of 5, so that we can continue with the work that is underway. We would ask for your approval of this item as it's presented. This is coming out of the conversation we had in closed last month.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Welcome for another year. I'm sure we'll have a wonderful year and you'll be very busy. When do Global Links next?
Yeah, it's 7
Okay.
next year.
Request for an approval of resolution authorizing an award of $140,000 in funds to Global Links Data Center to facilitate the connection between the transoceanic cables landed in Virginia Beach and the corporate landing conduit infrastructure. Mr. Adams, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would tell you, as we're working through this one, we are finding that we might not be quite ready for prime time yet. We would request an opportunity to defer this 1 month if the authority was willing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
How is the progress on the internal cabling with the pipes we put in?
So the conduit management system is complete. We are working our way through an RFP for management of that system now that you'll hear a little more about shortly.
Thank you. Our investment program request for approval of resolution authorizing an award of $100,000 in economic development fund for LifeNet. Mr. Couch.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the authority. Real quick, we're going to be asking for an EIP request for an expansion for LifeNet Health. And I'd like to take an opportunity to recognize Gordon Bergstresser, CFO of LifeNet Health in the back, and his attorney, Tom Franz, with Williams Mellon. With that, there's a lot of disclosures associated with them, their principal team associated with the project, and also all their board members. With this project, they're self-financing, but the building owner does have some banking interest with BB&T and also Town Bank. LifeNet Health is a homegrown company, been in business for 37 years. Their corporate headquarters is on Concert Drive. They have 2 different facilities there, their headquarters facility and their Center for Regenerative Medicine. Their mission is to improve quality of life through the provision of organs and tissues and for transplantation, and to serve the community by providing educational and supporting opportunities. They are the largest freestanding organ tissue bank in the United States. They are a 501c3, which means that they do not pay BPOL tax or sales tax, but they do pay real estate tax and personal property tax. LifeNet footprint is pretty big. They have a couple different locations throughout the country, and they'll also have some partnerships internationally as well, not represented here, but you can see the map where their international footprint is. Along with that, they have 6 different locations in Virginia Beach, which you can see are on Concert Drive, Ward Court, Bayside Road, Chandler Creek, Sabre, and also London Bridge Road. Just a quick zoom in of the various locations that they have in Virginia Beach. I won't go through all of these, but just note that their headquarters location is on Concert Drive, along with their Center for Regenerative Medicine. We have worked with LifeNet in the past for many different opportunities for growth. Back in 2003, we worked with them to sell them 15.8 acres for their headquarters location. That's when they moved out of Airport Industrial Park into this location. Then they had another expansion opportunity in 2010 where they bought another 6.5 acres from the city. So their total campus down at Concert Drive is a little over 22 acres. We've also worked with them on 4 EDIPs over the past iterations of their expansions, and that totals to a little over $1.8 million. And they currently do have an outstanding award of $700,000, which we're working through, which we'll discuss more. And also with that outstanding EDIP award, there is an outstanding award with Commonwealth Opportunity Fund for another $700,000, and we're working with it for the Job Investments Program as well with the state, and that's for $288,000. What we're talking about here is an additional expansion of their operation on Sabre, another 22,000 square feet of space. This would encompass office activities and also dry lab activities within that space. Capital investment is $1 million in real estate, $595,000 in FF&E, and $200,000 in machinery and tools, bringing their total capital investment to almost $1.8 million. And currently, LifeNet has 704 full-time positions in Virginia Beach. With their ongoing expansion, the one that's outstanding, that'll bring them to 1,025 jobs. And what we're talking about here today is an expansion of 44 new jobs associated with the opportunity of bringing a star researcher to Virginia Beach, primarily to work in the liver protocol pharmaceutical analytics. What they're doing is they're working with liver and pharmaceuticals and testing drugs on the liver and seeing what protocols come out of that. So, and I'm sorry, the 44 jobs will have an average annual salaries excluding benefits of a little over $55,000 a year. If you look at the total complexion of the LifeNet footprint in Virginia Beach, you can see their existing stuff on the left-hand side is total capital investment of 59. Their outstanding award, which we're talking about, that's ongoing, is a little over $12 million. And this expansion has another capital investment of almost $1.8 million, bringing their total capital investment in Virginia Beach to a little over $73 million, which is very significant. With this piece, we're talking about 44 new jobs in the expansion category. That'll bring their total jobs almost to 1,100 jobs in Virginia Beach, which is very significant for us, specifically in our biosector. One thing, as I mentioned before, they do have an outstanding award with the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund of $700,000, which is being worked through as we talk, and also the VGIP grant of $288,000 to almost $289,000. So with this, they might pursue another VGIP grant associated with this job growth, and we're working with LifeNet and also the state on this opportunity. So we're here today to ask for your, or request your approval to offer LifeNet Health an EDIP under Part A of the policy of $100,000 associated with the job growth here in Virginia Beach. We did compete with the various other locations they have in Florida, North Carolina, Washington State, Alabama, and Indiana associated with this expansion. And it will be a requirement of them to satisfy the current outstanding award before they receive any funds for this award. That must be, which is pretty significant. And they will use these funds for workforce-driven training, primarily, if not other opportunities associated with EDIP allowance for the program. So with that, I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative that you're here. I went to the event recently where I think NIH came. That was amazing. They just see one or two people who give their stories.
We're privileged to be in Virginia Beach.
Thank you. Okay. Olympia, request for approval of resolution authorizing an award of $625,000 in Economic Development Investment Program, Part B, to Olympic Development for the Bonnie Road Project. Mr. Adams, there you are.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Different up here with the mic, yeah. But quickly, this is one that we've had some conversation about over the last 3 months. You'll remember this started as sort of a two-part request. First, there was the item that we brought to you, which is the EDIP that you're going to see today. There was also two subsequent actions that we were seeking at that time from City Council. One was the declaration of excess property that would allow us to sell the property to Olympia Development at the appraised value of $2.3 million, which we'll show you in just a moment. But then also there was a request for City Council participation in parking in the neighborhood of $11 million. The $11 million participation requirement that we showed you last month is not part of this deal, was not part of City Council's ultimate approval. So as City Council ultimately moved just to sell the real estate for development of the site plan that we'll show you in just a moment. This request is now coming back to talk about the item that was before you last month that you deferred until after City Council's action. Here, I'll give you a moment to read these disclosures before we dive in. These are also unchanged from a month ago, so. Just a quick refresh. Here's the site that we're looking at. You can see it's an odd-shaped site in the bend on Bonnie Road that works its way back. If you are on the my pointer doesn't come through. If you were on what would be as you're facing it, the far left side, that's where Bonnie Road connects with Independence. Yeah, perfect. Here we're at we're approaching the intersection of Bonnie Road and Independence, and then as you see, Bonnie rolls around. Convergence Center is back here. You can also see the dotted line there, which is the Thalia Creek the Thalia Creek Greenway Trail, which is under construction now. Phase 1 is complete. Phase 2 is under construction, and Phase 3 is scheduled to begin shortly. This is, just for reference purposes, this is the site plan that we showed you, preliminary site plan that we showed you last month. As you can see, there are 2 large parking garages, 2 office buildings, what was at that point anticipated to be multifamily. The project you'll see has moved somewhat. We're now looking at what would be a more traditional office development. So what is this? This is the original drawing that was submitted with the RFP that Olympia brought to us in October of 2017. And this is a lot closer to what we think we will ultimately see from the project. One thing that's important to note here, you'll see the road off the back. We'll talk about that again in just a moment. You'll see that where we don't have the road proposed, because this is the original drawing, you can see it is still contemplated, and we'll talk about why that's important in a moment. Here was the original offer from the developer. So our total site's 11 3/4 acres, give or take. 7.5 acres are developable outside of wetlands. There are other easements on the site that bring that number down to just below 6 acres of actual developable real estate. What are those? 1, the Greenway Trail. 2, there's a large power easement on Bonnie Road. And then also there is a drainage easement that bisects the site. And so 7.5 that's outside of the wetland, add in those other easements, we're just less than 6 acres of developable real estate. It was assessed at 1.7 million. Our developer's offer was 1.8. This body asked us to conduct an appraisal. That appraisal came back at 2.3 million in May of 19, and that is the number that was presented to City Council. The developer's investment, so we're saying up to 75 million. 75 million is the number that we were seeing if we could fully build out the site based on what we saw in the first one. The developer is not quite sure what we can get into the site at this point. And obviously, the discussion here will have some impact on that, as you'll see in just a moment. We believe that there's a minimum of 40 million that will be invested here, but there is still hope that we can see those higher dollars. But that's at this point, based on where we are with this deal, that's just something that will be determined down the road. We do know, though, that at 2 office buildings, based on commercial rates and the square footages that are proposed, we feel comfortable saying between in the 38 to 40 million should be possible. We are asking for an EDIP of $625,000 for the construction of infrastructure. So the things which you will remember that we presented last month, those were primarily for 3 things. One is to provide a second point of access to the site. That is this road off the back. When you consider how close we are here at the current point of access to the intersection at Bonnie Road, we know that if we put 2 office buildings of 60,000 square feet or larger on this site, and continue to build out the site, that we're going to create traffic concern at that intersection. We need the opportunity to have a second point of access to the site, and preferably, as you can see here, as far away from the intersection and Independence as we can on this site. We think this is important for a number of reasons, but it is not inexpensive because that road has to transit wetlands here. So there are wetland mitigation credits that have to be purchased. That land has to be mucked out, and the road will be built on top of it. The other thing is we know that because we are dealing with a heavily constrained site, that the stormwater infrastructure will be difficult here. If we have to build a BMP, we likely lose a building. So there is the hope that that we would be able to underground stormwater and then or use other means that are at the developer's disposal to maximize the density on the site and get greater development. The third is the increasing the sewer capacity on the site. So in the public right-of-way, there's a 120-foot sewer connection that's currently at 8 inches, needs to be increased to 12. And so those are the components that are proposed for the EDIP. Those add up to an amount not to exceed $625,000. We would, of course, be performance-based as we are with all of our EDIPs, and we would just mention again that this project's in the town center TIF. That is, as you have seen this one 3 times, I'm giving you the abbreviated version of it today, but I'll take any questions at this point if you have them.
I had a couple of questions. I noticed in looking at the month before last minutes that the ask was 604,000 and this go around at 625. Was that just a typo last month or?
604 was the number we were working with as we got to this. Basically, we see construction costs moving. Also, we're advancing design to the point that some of these costs are becoming more known than they were at that point. And so it was our 604 would work for us because that is the number we did present to you a month ago. 625 is we think closer to where we are today.
And then is it zoned for office? Or do they have to go through that process?
The zoning is appropriate for this use.
Any other questions?
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, I'm going to abstain because this is a town bank project.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a nice project.
So one question, can you just review some of the constraints? You have, the 625 includes the underground stormwater, but I didn't get the sense that was an absolute condition.
So So we hope that it will be undergrounding of stormwater, and here's where we are. We know that a month ago, that the undergrounding of stormwater was the only way to execute the plan. We know that with 5 acres and our hope to get more than 120,000 square feet of professional office on the site that we've got, that we will still have major stormwater concerns to deal with. What I don't have from you today is, based on the way this has changed, I don't have the developer's plan in front of me. I believe that we will still underground it. However, I don't have a plan from the developer that shows definitively what that would look like today. Their engineer is working it through right now.
And if they don't underground
We're-
stormwater, the cost I would assume is less.
That's right. We're and that's where it's important to note that we're 100% performance-based in the award here.
And so it's either underground or create a pond. What Taylor's also saying is he doesn't know if there's another method, for example, maybe large swales around the perimeter.
Right.
But the choice that was on the table is either underground or to build a pond. If you build a pond because of the constraints of the site, then you lose a building realistically.
That's exactly right.
And Taylor, I would point out, just from watching the council discussion of this, you know, traffic on Bonnie Road was an issue that was discussed.
Sure.
And safety was a concern, so I really think they do need that secondary access. And I think that's critical to this development working in that stretch of Bonnie Road. So I think really that's an important piece that we're helping to contribute.
Thank you for that. And that's and another great point is, one of the things we like about this award is everything that we're doing here is site infrastructure that will be visible, that will exist. I mean, these are hard construction items that we'll be seeing come out of the ground here or in the ground and so forth.
Ms. Wilson?
I just, we have a shortage of office space, you know, for us to
We
continue
do.
bringing in the jobs that we want. We really need additional office space. And Mr. Cutchins has got a really good history of building a really beautiful office building. And knowing him, he's probably not gonna wanna waste the land for a B&B. And I know you don't have everything, but it's unlikely that he's gonna wanna waste that land for a water holding spot.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hear a motion? Thank you. Second? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much for the motion.
Thank you all.
Okay, we're coming to our priorities. Would you please introduce our new
I sure
staff
would.
members? We're so excited to have them.
But believe me, I am too. So yes, quickly, my report will be brief today because I really do want to focus on the new members of the team that are here with us today. I have 3 employees that I'd like to introduce.
I'm
Vicki
sorry.
Kelly.
I turned it off.
Vicki Kelly, who we introduced to you last month, she came to sort of just observe a meeting, is our new administrative technician. So she is in the role that Linda was in for so long. Vicki is one. I want to thank Alice Kelly, the finance director, who's in the room here, who let me sort of who let me steal Vicki. Vicki's a long-term employee of the finance department. She was an account clerk 3 there. She had experience in purchasing, but then also in accounts payable and with the city's procurement card program. And so basically, she's the lady that cut the majority of the city's checks for the last 2 years, and before then, kept the trains moving in purchasing. She is someone that has been on teams of mine over the 4 years now that I have been here, and I have a great deal of confidence in her. I know that she will do a great job for us. So Alice, thank you, and Vicki, we're so glad to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
Charlie Bauman. Charlie, if you'd stand up. Charlie is a guy that many of you probably already know. Experience at the port. He's a Norfolk guy originally, well now at least, and then was at a transient. Yeah.
Sorry.
But immediately prior to coming to us, was the director of an agency in sort of a more rural part of North Carolina.
Yeah, northeastern North Carolina.
And so we were delighted when we saw that he applied for one of our Rep 2 positions, and we were able to bring him home. So Charlie is a guy that brings a lot of experience, a steady hand, and a guy that knows the business and has really hit the ground running already. So we're delighted to have him. He'll be working with Ray White. Ray is traveling out recruiting this week. Otherwise, Ray would be making this introduction. But really excited to see what those guys are going to do together. And then Laura Hayes. We stole Laura from HREDA. Again, Laura had been at Heretta for 7 years. A real leader for them, particularly in international recruiting. She brings some experience and some success to us that we are very excited about. In addition to really understanding the international market, Laura comes to us with a series of relationships, both regionally and at the state level, that we are already able to leverage just in her first 2 weeks. She's joining us as a coordinator, and again, I will tell you, it's really for me. One, it's great to have some of these chairs getting filled, but also to be able to fill them with the quality of candidate that we're seeing has been very exciting. We were interviewing for another position on Friday, and then hopefully, where's Olivia? Hopefully another one in the next 10 days, which would be an account clerk 3. So staff build out is continuing, and again, thank you all for your patience with us while we get it done.
Thank you so much, and we welcome you to the best city in the world. I know that you will help us continue to make it. And Laura has served with Lisa and I on the commercial real estate women for years, and she's done such a great job there. Charlie, thank you so much. And my friend Vicki, she feels like you've already been here. You've been here a month. Happy to have you. Okay. What else do you have?
That's all I'm gonna do. Just
Okay.
So.
And we need to, we have some new members. You want to talk about that?
So, so sure, we've got, so Mr. Strange was reappointed. Welcome back.
Welcome back, Mr. Trey.
And then
NECA?
NECA Shiazer.
No, it's like the thing that,
Shi-
wait a minute. Well, anyway, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So
She likes to be called NECA. It's very
NECA from
difficult.
Cox. It's someone that we've worked with for a long time. Glad to have her on this body.
And her, she is on vacation in Africa, but will be here next month.
That's right. But important to note, she's already, this is exciting for us because sort of in the world of small business connectivity, access, things of that nature. NECA is someone that Jeff Smith particularly has been working with for some time now, and also
didn't
through his
know.
relationship with the Carolina, Virginia Minority Supplier Diversity Council. And so again, we welcome NECA.
And her mother is chair of a ports, I believe, in Africa, so she'll be coming to visit too.
That's right.
See, we need to have a nominating committee, Mr. Strange, Mr. Peter, if you can do it again this year, both of you, Peter and Joe, thank you. Director's report, needed that, okay, we're going to a closed session, I guess, right?
That's right. Got it.
The chair will entertain a motion to recess into closed session pursuant to the exemptions from open meeting allowed by 2.2-3711 Code of Virginia as amended for the following purposes. Personnel matter, no, okay, down here. Prospective business or industry. Discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-311A5. Contracts. What? Discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including the interviews of bidders, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contracts. Where a discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A30. A motion,
So moved.
second. Okay. Second. I don't know who the, Lisa and
got it.
Phil. They don't.
Yep. Then we call the roll for this one.
Yep.
David Byrne?
As he makes his entrance.
William Bronke?
Yes.
Ryan Cuffey?
Yes.
Kenny Morgan?
Yes.
Peter Mueller?
Yes.
Lisa Murphy?
Yes.
Charles Soleil?
Yes.
Joe Strange?
Yes.
Dot Wood?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, sir.
Hold on just a minute while we see those screens go dark.